All right, the rapid escalation of left-wing political violence. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. A recent Marist poll on political violence indicated a very serious problem in this country. About 1 in 3 Americans believe that political violence is necessary to fix the country. Anybody with a brain these days knows who those people are. That's the far left of the American populace, proven by another poll of just liberals that indicated about half of them think killing the president or Elon Musk would be justified. 55% of liberals in this country think we should kill the president of the United States. The American left has been excessively radicalized in the 10 years since Donald Trump entered politics, ginned up by desperate Democrat rhetoric designed to inspire voter turnout to beat him. But it inspires much worse, as we all know. It was clear we had a serious problem when Trump was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. And only, 2 months later, another assassin arrived at his golf club in Palm Beach to finish the job. Then the United Healthcare CEO was gunned down in Manhattan, right there on a street in Midtown, shot in the back and killed. And then they killed Charlie Kirk. Both those assassinations widely celebrated by the American far left.
We think that Charlie Kirk just got shot in the neck. Hey, ooh, ah, ooh.
I needed some good news today, damn it. And oh my God, thank you.
Charlie Kirk got shot and he's dead.
Seeing that, today, Senator Eric Schmitt held a hearing at the Senate to diagnose exactly what has happened to our country. Here's some of what he said.
The people behind this violence are not common street criminals. They're not driven by money or drugs or gangland turf disputes. They're determined, militant extremists who wield violence for political ends. They know that their vision would never win at the ballot box, so they've chosen terrorism instead. They know their ideas could not win in the marketplace of ideas, so they shoot up the marketplace.
Feels pretty accurate, doesn't it, when you think about it? Today's hearing dug into many instances of this kind of violence, which is escalating at an alarming pace. 2025 is set to be the most violent year for the American left in 3 decades. And those stats don't count the almost daily Antifa riots and riots outside of these ICE facilities that we see in this country. Those don't get counted. The Daily Wire's Michael Knowles testified today after a violent Antifa attack at a campus that he was speaking at.
The federal government must act now to stop the consistent and accelerating trend of leftist terrorism. For a legislator to deny the threat and neglect the remedy might once have been chalked up to ignorance. Today, it is nothing less than complicity.
It is complicity, and the complicity comes from fear. Democrats realize, of course they realize, that they have created a monster with their rhetoric. And if they admit that the monster is real, they become responsible for it. So instead, they spent all day today talking about the greatest political gift they have ever received, of course, their favorite new holiday, January 6th.
Far-right extremists were responsible for the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. I lived through it.
I draw upon my experiences as one of the few police officers in this country who has policed both the protests and riots of 2020, as well as the insurrection of January 6, 2021.
You were here in duty, in uniform, on January 6. Can you tell us just what you went through?
We will never forget January 6.
Yeah, sure, our voters are burning down the country as fast as they can, but 5 years ago, there was a 2-hour riot after an incredibly shady election during a pandemic. Let's focus more on that. They will cling to January 6th forever. Your grandkids will read about it in 7th grade and think it was equivalent to 9/11. In truth, it's a cover for the chaos that they have unleashed on our country. They know what they've done, and they need something else to change the subject, to divert away, and this is what it is. As the left now daily screams fascist, Nazi, Hitler all day long at everything they don't like, as if it's somehow normal political discourse.
Understand that we have a Timu Hitler in the White House right now that thinks that he is going to become the dictator of the United States.
The words that Donald Trump used today, that's Hitler-esque. That is right out of Nazi Germany.
He is paving the way to become a Vladimir Putin or to become an Adolf Hitler.
I don't even know what to call him. I've called him so many things, but this wannabe Hitler for sure.
Hitler was duly elected.
That's right.
Right? Trump is telling us what he intends to do.
That's how they talk. They know how dangerous this is. They know how vile this is. But again, they've never faced an opponent like this. They've never had somebody like Trump to go up against. And of course, they care way more about their own power than the health of our nation or a few bullets flying around. That's nothing to them. They want to win. So there's no limit to how far they'll go to do that. And there's no limit to what they'll say to do that. And when the violence comes, they do what they do best. They just lie and deny. Listen to this.
I haven't suggested that Donald Trump is Hitler. I wouldn't say
I don't think
about
any Democrat has. I actually, and I think it's a smear that they project back on to critics.
What a nice little silo they must have to live in to try and say that with a straight face and think nobody's going to notice. Yeah, nobody actually does any of that, right? It's all just another MAGA myth. We don't call Trump Hitler. Here's a little montage of just Pritzker himself recently.
Every day eroded your rights. And everything that he has done has been tearing down constitutional democracy. And that's what happened in Nazi Germany. If you think I'm overreacting and sounding the alarm too soon, consider this. It took the Nazis 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days, 8 hours, and 40 minutes to dismantle a constitutional republic.
Well, I think everybody understands that at this point, we've got an authoritarian in office.
It doesn't take very long to tear apart a constitutional republic. Indeed, the Nazis did it in 53 days.
All right, the Daily Wire's Michael Knowles, along with Senator Mike Lee of Utah, we're both at today's hearing and both join us now. Good to have you guys on. Senator, I want to start with you. The Democrats in this hearing very desperate to deflect the reality now we face in this country, which is understandable. Obviously, it's a big political liability for them, but all they did was bring up January 6th about 20 times. The truth is, though, that the Democrats' base increasingly sees violence as a proper method to achieving its goals. And that far left flank of the party is now radicalized and very dangerous. And that's obvious to people, isn't it?
That's exactly right. And the problem here is that at other inflection points in American history where something horrible has happened, some kind of violent attack, we have, for the most part, come together as a people and overwhelmingly, unanimously condemned the violence. When that doesn't happen on the left, when that didn't happen in the immediate wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination and still hasn't happened, and when since then we've got things like the PBS Marist NPR poll from earlier this month showing that fully 55% of those who identify as part of the left think it's morally justifiable to murder President Trump, you've got a problem. The left has a problem, and it needs to identify it in order to address what's really happening here.
Yeah, it certainly does. Michael, information from the Center for Strategic and International Studies was cited today that left-wing violence has risen in the last 10 years. Number of terrorist incidents involving left-wing extremists so far this year puts 2025 on pace to be the most deadly for the left in more than 3 decades. What do you think is happening in this country that's leading to that, other than rhetoric?
Well, I think that the left-wing violence has become so clear that it's undeniable at this point. But we should be clear about this. Left-wing violence has always been underreported. Even the attack that occurred at an event that I was speaking at, that I testified on today, that was Antifa throwing an explosive at a building, seriously injuring a cop. That does not appear on registers of political violence. The BLM riots, which led to 36 deaths and $1 billion worth of property damage, that doesn't appear on registers of left-wing political violence. The fact that the CSIS study, even now being reported in the Atlantic, has to acknowledge this just shows you how profound the left-wing violence problem has become. The Democrats wanted to run away with it. They wanted to say that it was a both sides side's issue, or really it was all the Republicans' fault. And they're trying to evade responsibility, but you can't fix a problem unless you identify where the problem really lies.
Yeah, and for some reason that they're so effective at concealing this, and they have a way with statistics of, you know, for the longest time they said that the biggest threat that we faced was conservative white men, and we would all just laugh because it was so like with our eyes we knew that was so false, but they were able to say it because they were backed up by whatever this nonsense is that they could cite in those moments. Senator Cory Booker today was talking about the rhetoric and saying that we have a problem rhetorically on both sides that's creating violence in this country. He then blasted how the president speaks. Take a listen to this.
We are in a crisis right now, and there is growing political violence and a growing justification for it. But I find it stunning that the way we talk about it seems more about grievance politics and trying to score points than actually getting to the root of what is an American problem. I will do my best to call it like it is. To hear quotes that I've even said that need to be tamped down. And God, I wish I'd see more of my colleagues being willing to call out the President of the United States for his outrageous comments as well.
I agree that the rhetoric is bad in this country, and there's obviously a huge division, a huge divide between the two parties and their voters. But I think, Senator, that the larger point is that you don't see people acting on the right off of that as much as you do on the left. I mean, like just the stats we just talked about, how so many people that vote for the Democrat Party see violence as a method toward what they want to achieve. So many people think that it would be better if Donald Trump were assassinated, that's something that should happen, that they believe that. It seems like on their side, they've got a real issue there that is very dangerous.
Yeah, look, the fact that you can find people at every point along the political spectrum who sometimes say or do things that they shouldn't do, that is beside the point. That's a fine statement to make as far as it goes, but it completely overlooks what we're dealing with here, which is that when we've got something on the right that is not acceptable, it's immediately called out as such by most Republicans in office, and certainly by the consistently left-leaning media. They will call it out early, often, whether it needs to be called out or not, they'll do it. But where you've got crickets from the media and crickets from many elected Democrats in office, when somebody on the left does it, when you've got a cold-blooded assassination attempt on President Trump, or you've got the tragically successful assassination of Charlie Kirk, and it was celebrated for days, even weeks, by prominent figures on the left without a lot of condemnation from the media or from elected officials, that's troubling.
It certainly is. Michael, I'll give you the final word on this. What was achieved today from this hearing?
I think what was achieved was showing the public the real stakes of what's going on. It was so ironic that Cory Booker made those remarks when he's currently endorsing Jay Jones to be the top law enforcement official in Virginia, a man who's called for the murder of Republicans and our children, says that we're breeding little fascists, would urinate on the graves of Republicans. It's just total hypocrisy. These are crocodile tears, and we need to call it out for what it is so that we can go on to fix the problem and rebuild our political order and a free marketplace of ideas.
Yes, that's very well said. Gentlemen, good to have you both on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so a mass shakeup of ICE leadership is apparently in the works amid reports of friction inside DHS over deportation tactics and also priorities. Senior leaders in ICE field offices in several cities expected to be replaced with Border Patrol officials. Allegations are out there of a rift growing in DHS. Border Czar Tom Homan and ICE Director Todd Lyons on one side, focusing more so on criminal illegal aliens. Kristi Noem and Greg Bovino pushing a more aggressive approach, targeting anybody in the U.S. illegally to boost deportation numbers and to get those numbers higher and higher. The Border Czar, Tom Homan, joins us now to talk about this. Sir, it's good to have you back on. Your reaction to that reporting, is there any truth to that?
Well, look, I think we're all been aggressive. I mean, look at the results of this administration. Yeah. Most secure border in history of this nation. A record number of arrests and deportations. We'll have 600,000 deportations by the end of the year, which is 200,000 above the highest year in the past. And we found just short of 24,000 children that President Trump wanted to find that the last administration wasn't even looking for, children that were trafficked in this country, many of them saved from sex trafficking and forced labor. So we've all been, pushing for more arrests, more deportations. I'd said from day one, I don't think the DHS or Secretary Noem disagrees with what I've said from day one, because what we said from day one is the president wants to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats. I've also said from day one that if you're in the country legally, you're not off the table. Prioritization doesn't mean you forget about everybody else. So results speak for themselves. This administration's in lockstep, and we're doing what President Trump promised American people we would do. Make this country safer by removing public safety threats.
Yeah. Is there indications that the number's is it gonna speed up the process? I mean, it's amazing that you can even deport 600,000 people is a tremendous number. But then everybody remembers that Biden let like 15 million in,
And on top of that, on top of the 600,000, let's not forget over 1.5 million left on their own, which was a part of the strategy from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because of what ICE is doing nationwide, over having 1,000 arrest teams out in the streets, we knew if we did that, we show consequences that we are going to enforce the law, less people will come to the borders. I give ICE a lot of credit why we had the most secure border in the history of this nation, because people aren't willing to take that risk knowing there are consequences. And also, by seeing these teams out there every day, people are leaving on their own, taking a chance. And look, I can leave on my own and not be formally deported. That way I can leave myself an opportunity to come back on a legal program, or I can wait around, be arrested by ICE, be formally deported, and be locked out of any future program. So that's been part of the calculation from the beginning. And we're going to keep doing this. And look, are we going to speed up deportations? Absolutely. We just hired, we're in the process of hiring 10,000 more deportation officers. That is a 300% increase, because we only had 5,000 when we started. And we're going to have 15,000, so you're going to see the numbers go up. Border Patrol will keep assisting us. Like ICE helped the Border Patrol during the 4 years of an open border in signing agents down there. Yeah. Now the Border Patrol is returning the favor and helping us do this deportation operation, since they can take agents off the border, because we had the most secure border in lifetime. So we worked together for decades, and we're going to continue working together to get these numbers up.
And you think that, I mean, is it true that has the budget just kind of hit the increase in spending and funding for you? Has that recently been allocated, or is that still, are you still waiting for that? Where are we at in that process? I know it was tight on money when you started, right?
Well, the big beautiful bill gives us more money we ever had, which is going to do a lot of things. It's going to hire more officers. It's going to let us have more transportation contracts. It's going to let us have over 100,000 beds, which we never had before, that we can use. Because as we got these 10,000 new agents hit the street and the arrests increase, we need a place to bed them down. Because what people don't realize, you don't arrest somebody and deport them an hour later. You got to detain them for several days or several weeks to get travel documents, to make flight arrangements. So the big beautiful bill not only gives us a stronger border, more technology on the border, more Border Patrol agents, but it gives us more interior enforcement agents, more beds, more transportation contracts, and more technology. These smart companies come in and helping ICE to help us find people that don't want to be found, people that are in the weeds, and we got to find these people. And what's most important on all of this is finding these 300,000 missing kids, because they don't have a digital footprint like you and me. Right. How do you find a child that has no digital footprint? So we're going to bring these companies in and help us locate these children, because President Trump made a promise. We're not going to stop until we find every child or run down every lead.
Yeah. And I got 10 seconds left. But is it realistic to think that everyone that came in under Biden can be taken out under this first term of Trump, or is that too high of a goal?
Well, I'm giving one hell of a shot.
Yeah. Okay. Borders are Tom Homan. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
House Oversight says it has proof that Biden was unaware of several executive orders, now calling them invalid. The DOJ indicating it's ready to start investigating. Congressman Jim Jordan is up next.
Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country.
Before Charlie Kirk died, he issued a stark warning of terrifying dangers ahead in a new book, Pagan Threat, authored by Pastor Lucas Miles. Charlie said Pagan Threat could save America and that you must read it. Get Pagan Threat free with Newsmax's special offer. Plus, get Dick Morse's new book, The Real Charlie Kirk. 2 great books with our free offer today.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
Tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians, bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror, Hamas must go.
As Israel suffers attacks on 7 different fronts, it's her poor and elderly who are barely making it through each day.
The tears are from the pain of the life that she's lived. She's a survivor of Auschwitz. The years that they would just beat her, years that she didn't have food and felt hungry.
She paid a horrible price to come home from Ethiopia. She lost in that journey her 6-year-old son. A couple of weeks later, she lost her family. She is a wonderful woman, and she is very poor.
I pray that we answer these cries, and our answer is love.
With a gift of only $25, you'll deliver a life-saving food box into the hands of an elderly Jew in need.
She's saying people have a heart. There are good people today.
Call, scan, or go online now, and the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews will rush your food box today.
Hallelujah. This is a holy moment. What you're doing is not simply being kind. You are prophetically stepping into the scriptures and being part of their redemption and our own.
This is a holy calling, and it's our chance to bless God's people. In a world where Israel is under attack, Christians can help fulfill biblical prophecies through practical support and genuine friendship.
For everything you are doing, thank you. It's perfect.
This is what a simple food box does.
You can bring joy, hope, and love to someone praying for your help today. So please, call, scan, or go online now.
How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
He is as sharp as ever.
And he looks at me, stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me.
The Autopen, I think, is maybe one of the biggest scandals that we've had in 50 to 100 years.
Every executive action signed by the Autopen without written authorization from President Biden should be voided.
House Oversight Committee publishing a damning final report on Joe Biden's Autopen this week after months of investigating, finding that many of his signatures Biden didn't authorize many of his own pardons. Simple as that. Chairman Comer concluding, as Americans saw President Biden's decline with their own eyes, Biden's inner circle sought to deceive the public, cover up his decline, and took unauthorized executive actions with the Autopen that are now invalid. Executive actions that Joe Biden did not authorize were committed, according to Comer and this committee. Committee urging the Attorney General Mamdani to take action, which is something the DOJ is now considering. As part of the final report, Oversight released 14 transcribed interviews of top-level Biden staffers who they recently brought in for questioning under oath. Familiar names like Karine Jean-Pierre, Jeff Zients, the chief of staff, even Biden's Dr. Kevin O'Connor. Here's some of the highlights from those interviews.
How much were you paid for your role in the campaign in 2024?
Just a little bit short of $4 million.
I'm sorry, how much?
$4 million.
But there were instances where videos were circulated of President Biden appearing confused or freezing for a moment that were real, correct?
Not that I recall.
Do you know who the people who were actually operated the Autopen were? I do not.
Do you know any of the actual staff who were using the Autopen? No.
You don't know their names?
No.
I approve the use of the Autopen for the execution of all the following pardons. Thanks, JZ. Did you yourself write this email? I do not believe I did.
I do not believe I did. Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan also sits on House Oversight and joins us now, sir. It's good to have you back on.
Good to be with you, Rob.
Congressman, did you find conclusive evidence of the Autopen being used without Biden's knowledge or approval?
Well, here's the bottom line. First of all, the country knew, certainly in that debate with President Trump, the country knew that President Biden just was not up to the task. So any signature that takes place after that fact with the Autopen, I think, is a real concern for the because American people could see it with their own eyes. Second, Joe Biden said there was a process. There was a process that was followed, and there were certain things you had to do and things you had to check off in order to have this happen. Well, it looks like that wasn't the case based on the investigation done by the Oversight Committee. And so I think, again, this is now in the hands of the Justice Department. We'll see what the Attorney General decides to do with this information. But I think it just confirms sort of some basic things. The country knew he wasn't up to the task. Certainly they knew that after that debate performance in the summer of 2024. Joe Biden said there was a process that was followed based on the investigation of the Oversight Committee. There really wasn't one. And then you finally, I would add, just some of the people that were deposed just took the fifth. They took the fifth to, questions that you wouldn't think you would have to take the fifth for, frankly. So again, I think this all warrants the Justice Department taking a good look at this, and we'll see what happens.
I think a lot of people would be interested in seeing Joe Biden, somehow if you could interview him and just ask him, try to figure out a way to make him have to remember. Because, that soundbite that we played in the introduction montage where you've got, Mike Johnson sitting there talking to him about an executive order that he had just ordered a couple weeks ago. I think it was on energy. And he had no idea what the hell he was. He thought that he had done the opposite. Think about how crazy it is that you had this allegedly moderate Democrat president, a moderate his whole life, and you had all of these zealots in there working around him. Yeah. And they realized we can kind of do whatever we want. We've ridden this Trojan horse into power. So how do you get Biden? Is there a way to subpoena him, get him under oath, and be like, did you know about this?
I just don't think that's going to happen. Bringing back in a former president, I think that's tough to do. But you're right. It seemed. Remember in the debate, I will never forget in the debate when Joe Biden said he was an eight handicap. Yeah. Oh, come on, man. Everyone knows you can barely get off a bicycle, for goodness sake. And I don't want to be mean to the former president because we all wish our president was fully capable of handling the job, but it was just obvious he wasn't. But if you can't get off the bicycle, there's no way you're an 8 handicap, and yet he told the whole country that. And it was I think my favorite. President Trump's response was, no way, I've seen your swing.
My favorite line from Trump was, it's just, I know your swing. I've seen your swing. Like, you're not an 8. It was one of the best moments of the debate. And it really did. It showed just how far he had fallen, which was sad to see. But at the same time, you're running the frickin' country and you're running it into the ground. I want to play this moment just to speak to that. Here's Biden at the Edward M. Kennedy Institute saying that these are very dark days right now in the U.S.
In my over 50 years in elected public life, this is the worst I've seen it. Our very democracy is at stake, in my view.
How do you respond to that after the 4 years we went through with him? Right now we're kind of cleaning a lot of things up.
The border is secure. Taxes have been cut. Men aren't in women's sports. There's peace in the Middle East. The agreement, the hostages are free. Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon, and he's complaining. What we've seen in 9 months of President Trump's phenomenal. Yeah. And all kinds of other things happening that are just positive, not to mention what President Trump accomplished in his first term, putting the embassy in Jerusalem, putting 3 conservatives on the highest court, on and on we could go. And Joe Biden, the guy who told the country he's an 8 handicap, is critiquing that. You got to be kidding me. So, no one falls for that. No one believes that.
It's interesting because he's angry. The real impetus for all of their anger is the border and the fact that we're just deporting the 20 million people that they invited into this country. And because that process looks messy and it's on CNN every night and it looks like it's, sad to watch, they're tugging at the heartstrings of people. They don't realize these people don't belong here in the first place. And we've invited in problems that you can't even imagine. Real quick before I let you go, the government shutdown looking like at this point, Republicans are polling better. So this is a huge loss for Schumer and Jeffries. It might have to end without them even able to save face, which I think would be politically just devastating for them.
Yeah, I hope that just the common sense prevails here, and common sense plus the fact that the federal public employee union just said the government needs to be open. Air traffic controllers are sending signals. I think this is sending a message to the Democrats. Oh, maybe we shouldn't have done this crazy move. Maybe we should have voted for the thing we voted for 6 months earlier, for goodness sake. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Congressman, good to see you again. Thanks so much.
You too, Rob. Thanks.
All right. Why socialist rent and housing plans always elicit the opposite results. We're going to talk about that as Zoran spins the story of his Muslim aunt, the real victim of 9/11.
I was speaking about my aunt. I was speaking about Zerafui, my father's cousin.
You know, I think the biggest selling point for Newsmax is we're not doing the same boring, predictable news. You flip through the other channels, you got these high-paid hosts. They say the same thing every night. You know what they're going to say. It's a little different.
Hi, my name is Damian Clark. And if you have both Medicare and Medicaid, I have some really encouraging news that you'll definitely want to hear. Depending on the plans available in your area, you may be eligible to get extra benefits with the Humana Medicare Advantage Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan. These plans have a $0 monthly plan premium. Most plans include the Humana Healthy Options Allowance. Get over $1,000 a year. That's $85 a month to help pay for covered over-the-counter items like vitamins, pain relievers, first aid supplies, and more. The Healthy Options Allowance is loaded onto a prepaid card each month, and whatever you don't spend carries over from each month. Call today to learn about all the items covered. You could have $0 copays on hundreds of prescriptions all year long, including select brand name drugs. All plans have $0 copays for covered preventive dental services, which include 2 free cleanings a year, as well as coverage towards fillings. They also have vision coverage, including vision exams and a yearly allowance towards eyewear, such as lenses or contacts, and hearing coverage, which includes routine hearing exams and coverage towards hearing aids. Plus, your doctor, hospital, and pharmacy may already be part of our large Humana networks. So call the number on your screen now to speak with a licensed Humana sales agent. Wouldn't you love benefits like a monthly allowance to help pay for covered over-the-counter items? So if you have Medicare and Medicaid, call the number on your screen now and speak with a licensed Humana sales agent. If you're eligible, they can even help enroll you over the phone in a Humana Medicare Advantage Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan. And remember, annual enrollment ends on December 7th. So call now. Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
Neuropoi is the only clinically proven nerve support product for burning, tingling, and numbness. Try our best-selling topical gel for near instant relief. Neuropoi is available at all major retailers, or you can find us at neuropoi.com.
Mike Hammond from Signal Relief. Veterans have sacrificed so much for our freedom, and too many live in chronic pain from their service. We created the Signal Relief patch to make a real difference. We just want to thank you for your service and for the extraordinary sacrifices you've made to protect our freedoms. Whether you served or not, it has clinically been shown that 85% of our participants have felt or found relief. And it comes with a money-back guarantee. I will never forget the first wounded vet I gave a patch to. For the first time in years, he felt relief, and when he saluted, it brought me to tears. Join the hundreds of thousands who've experienced relief by purchasing a patch. If our technology can bring relief to a wounded vet, imagine what it can do for you. Trust me, the patch works.
I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
Zoran, likely to be the next mayor of New York City, sobbing over his aunt who allegedly felt uncomfortable after terrorists who share her same ideology murdered nearly 3,000 Americans on 9/11. Yes, the real tragedy of 9/11 was that Muslims got dirty looks in the months after the attack. Because as Ilhan told us, 9/11 was really just some people did something. But here's a question. Did Mamdani just make that story up? Is it authentic or not? Was there really an aunt that couldn't wear her hijab on the subway? After some digging, many questioned the claim, as his aunt doesn't actually wear a hijab and was actually in Africa on 9/11 and the months after. Now Zoran is kind of amending that comment from last week. Take a look.
I was speaking about my aunt. I was speaking about Zerafui, my father's cousin, who sadly passed away a few years ago. And for the takeaway from my more than 10-minute address about Islamophobia in this race and in this city to be the question of my aunt tells you everything about Andrew Cuomo.
Tells you everything about his opponent, Andrew Cuomo. Well, what we really don't know is how authentic is Zoran Mamdani, because you don't really know much about him, because right now you're getting a very filtered version of what he believes, because he's trying to sneak into power, right? He's on his best behavior. Let's show you back in 2023, the real Zoran, who absolutely hates the police, absolutely hates the Jews. Take a look.
We are in a country where those connections abound, especially in New York City. You have so many opportunities to make clear the ways in which that struggle over there is tied to capital's interest over here. For anyone to care about these issues, we have to make them hyperlocal. We have to make clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF.
That's the real Zoran right there. That's the one you're not seeing in all these campaign speeches. Again, he's being on his best behavior. Kenny Burgos is the CEO of the New York Apartment Association. Michael Gonzalez is the Heritage Foundation Senior Fellow, and they both joined us now. Good to have you both on. Michael, I want to start with the aunt comment. The reason Cuomo brought this up is because I think with that comment that Zoran made last week, he showed just how unaffected he might have been by the 9/11 tragedy, and that he probably didn't have a lot of sympathy, as so many in the Arab world didn't, that maybe New York kind of got what it deserved. And he showed it that day by saying that the real tragedy of it is simply that my aunt felt uncomfortable on the subway. To cry about that after what we went through, I think, was very appalling to a lot of Americans. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that was an outrageous comment, even if the aunt had existed. But I mean, let's not cut him any slack here. He got caught in a lie. My father and my mother have several cousins. Never have I called any of them an aunt or an uncle. That's just not the same. The fact that he then, when he gets caught in a lie, doubles down and says, my aunt, my father's cousin. No one does that. He was lying. Got caught in it. But yes, let's say that he had an aunt, and let's say that she was uncomfortable wearing a hijab in the time after 9/11. That is, there were a lot of people who were not able to ride the subway after 9/11 because they were killed in the World Towers. So outrageous from the beginning to end. And communists rely on telling lies.
Right. You wonder if there was more emotion shown in that moment than he felt even after the towers dropped, is what I wonder. Kenny, I want to talk about Zoran's platform full of freebies, including his plan to freeze the rent on more than 2 million rent-controlled and rent-stabilized homes in New York. We already have a problem in this city of a lot of homes that are just kept off the market because there's no real incentive. The rent is so low that the owner doesn't even feel the need to rent it. What will be the impact of Zoran dramatically exacerbating that plan of rent control, rent stabilization, and not letting rent go up at all?
Yeah, so right now we already have a scenario where 200,000 units of housing and rent-stabilized housing are functionally bankrupt. And that's not even coming from us specifically. This is the NYU Furman Center and other credited think tanks that are raising the alarm on rent-stabilized housing. So the plan to freeze rents on the rent-stabilized housing stock, which is over 1 million units of housing, would decimate this housing stock, which is almost 40% of New York City's housing. So it can't be understated, its impact, not just within rent-stabilized housing, but certainly the housing overall in New York City. And to say on the same side of your mouth you want to freeze rents, but then somehow attract private investment to build the housing that you also recognize New York City needs, I just don't see how you square that circle. This is going to lead New York City to much higher rents in the free market, a collapse of rent-stabilized housing, and just a crisis to continue.
You think hundreds, thousands more available units will come off the market market and be unavailable, that dramatically lessens the supply, and then we just see prices skyrocket. That's your expectation?
We're going to see a lot more vacancy. Yeah. We have over minimum 50,000 right now, but 200,000 are basically on the brink. This is the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, this is when you have a kid that is untethered from reality, that's never had any life experience, going to run a city. We're going to see real quick the damage that can do. I got to leave it there just based out of time. But Kenny and Michael, thanks so much. We appreciate it, guys. Good to see you both.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks.
With nearly her entire support base on food stamps, Tish James sues the federal government over SNAP.
From the moment Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, Newsmax was there.
We have some major breaking news. Israel launches strikes, preemptive strikes, almost 4 in the morning.
Israel has decided enough's enough.
What happened tonight was inevitable.
Something just caught my attention it sounds like afterburners overhead.
Multiple explosions across the capital, Tehran.
I'm in a shelter now. There's 6 of us.
Benjamin Netanyahu has come out to make a statement.
Our fight is not with you. Our fight is with the brutal dictatorship. We have risen like lions to defend ourselves.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Whenever the biggest news breaks, Newsmax is there for you, because we're real news for real people.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians, bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror, Hamas must go.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell it all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 5-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
Now it's a great time to play Solitaire Grand Harvest and enjoy a new world of solitaire. Brr, a cold world. This Christmas, discover all the holiday fun with exciting features from Santa. Like our winter tournaments, festive mini-games, and challenging levels. Ever built a farm in the snow? 'Tis the season to turn classic into fantastic. So download Solitaire Grand Harvest for free and see for yourself.
Douglas trusts Prevagen for his brain, and this is his story.
I'm Douglas, and I'm from Chicago. I was looking for something specifically for my brain. That's when I chose Prevagen. And the confidence I've received from Prevagen allows me to continue to do those things that I love. I have been taking Prevagen for more than 9 years, and it really works for me.
Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Knowles Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Knowles, the brand I trust.
Y'all better stay the out of my way in these stores. I'm walking out with carts and I'm not paying for. If you gotta take that food, go ahead and take it. Just go ahead and take it.
Food stamp recipients, better known as the Democrat base, threatening to get violent and steal, but welfare recipients have a hero fighting for them, and of course it's Big Tish. Tish James in New York, desperate to distract from her federal fraud case, now leading the charge, joining 24 Democrat state leaders filing a lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Ag, claiming it's illegal for the federal government to cut off the November food stamps amid the shutdown that's been brought to you by their own party. Tish saying millions of Americans are about to go hungry because the federal government has chosen to withhold food assistance it is legally obligated to provide, adding there is no excuse for this administration to abandon families who rely on SNAP or food stamps as a lifeline. Larry, Elder, Matt Schlapp with us tonight. Guys, first off, if you look at some of these videos, I don't think any of these people are going to go hungry anytime soon. But Larry, this is becoming a really serious fight as we see threats on TikTok that SNAP recipients are just going to raid grocery stores starting this weekend. If they don't get these benefits, they're just going to run in and steal everything they can. We have really created a massive, very entitled and totally dependent welfare community in this country, about 40 million strong.
Now, Matt, did Rob just now engage in fat shaming?
Say it.
You know, Rob, the more I look at this, the more this is what it comes down to. One, of course, it's just standing up against Donald Trump, showing that you're tough against Donald Trump. Yeah. Expanding the Obamacare subsidies that Biden used COVID to enhance. But more than that, it's about trying to get the Republicans to use the so-called nuclear option to shut off the shutdown. So that the Democrats, if and when they get back in charge, and eventually someday, unfortunately, they will, they'll be able to expand the Supreme Court, pack the Supreme Court, make Washington, D.C. a state, make Puerto Rico a state, and get their entire agenda, which is single payer, implemented without one input at all from the Republican Party. That's what they're trying to get the Republicans to do. And so far, Senator Tom Cotton sees through it and has said he's not going to do it. Yeah, that's thankfully, because that's exactly right. I mean, they imagine what they would do without a filibuster. Oh, God. It's reparations too. It's terrifying. And the way they all stick together, none of them have a mind of their own, so that they would push it right through. Matt, despite Democrats refusing to vote for a clean continuing resolution and reopen the government, we've made it very easy. The Republicans have voted for this like 12 times now. Rosa DeLauro, one of my favorites, demanding the White House dole out the SNAP as it is.
The contingency funding that we set aside for SNAP is not optional spending. It is required by the law. The White House must spend it, and what they are doing right now, blocking these funds from going out, is illegal.
So these SNAP recipients are the whole reason that these people have any power to begin with. I mean, that's the best part of their base. That's their core. They go into those buildings and they come out with piles of votes for themselves. They know how it works. Her party is the one that shut the government down.
That's right.
Just do the CR and open it up. I mean, you don't screw with your base, Matt.
Look, and I have had to choke on watching Republicans go on TV and talk about how it's the end of the world because SNAP isn't going to get funded. I mean, come on, these programs, we know how bloated they are. They know that they are misused by people who are here illegally. The companies push for SNAP because all the food companies make a lot of money off this. There are people that are truly poor and hungry and indigent in this country, but then they're surrounded by all these people who are grifters and just trying to take advantage of not working, quite frankly, in their life. And look, Glenn Youngkin is a responsible governor here in Virginia. He's going to pay for the shortfall because he has something called a surplus, because he has reasonable financial management skills. And, you know, Tish James, I mean, this is like so ironic. She's suing Trump for not using fascist powers to overtake the Democrats, right? It's like, you know, here he is, and they're saying Donald Trump could move these SNAP funds in a second. How come they can't find a federal judge to come out and reverse Trump? They find a federal judge within 5 minutes to do everything that he's constitutionally allowed to do. They haven't found a judge to do this. It's kind of makes me wonder, Rob. Makes me wonder, too. What an interesting fight. And again, I say, why is it that we are subsidizing food for people that weigh 300 pounds? I mean, my Twitter feed is full of some of the heaviest people I have ever seen screaming about SNAP benefits. And it's just funny to me. It's like this whole idea that there's food insecurity in this country. What an illusion that is, that I hear about from Democrats all the time. I don't think there's a food security problem at all, or food insecurity problem. Larry Elder, Matt Schlapp, good to see you both. Thanks so much. Don Lemon reminding us why CNN fired him.
Kind of looks like a Barbie doll covered in like WD-40.
I think she looks trans.
Meet Andrew from the Zebra. Andrew lives and breathes insurance. Andrew stays up all night watching the Zebra find people's savings. You might think nobody could love insurance as much as Andrew, but at the Zebra, everybody's really into savings. The Zebra monitors your insurance and informs you of savings the moment we find it. so you never have to second-guess your policy or your price. Nobody does insurance like the Zebra. Find out how much you can save today.
At Humana, we believe your health care should evolve with you, and part of that evolution means choosing the right Medicare plan for you. Humana can help. Hi, my name is Sam Davis, and I'm going to tell you about Medicare Advantage prescription drug plans that can provide more coverage than original Medicare, including prescription drug coverage, all wrapped up into one convenient plan. With original Medicare, you're covered for hospital stays and doctor office visits, but you have to meet a deductible for each, and then you're still responsible for 20% of the cost. Next, let's look at Medicare supplement plans. If a service is covered under original Medicare, then a Medicare supplement plan pays for some or all of your Medicare deductibles and the 20% coinsurance. But they may have higher monthly premiums and no prescription drug coverage. Humana Medicare Advantage prescription drug plans include medical coverage, plus prescription drug coverage, with $0 copays on hundreds of prescriptions. All plans include $0 copays for covered preventive dental services, vision coverage that includes vision exams and a yearly allowance toward eyewear, and hearing benefits that include routine hearing exams and coverage toward hearing aids. You could get $0 copays for in-network preventive services like primary care visits, mammograms, and prostate exams, and there's worldwide coverage for emergency and urgent care when you travel. Plus, Humana also offers Medicare Advantage plans. Plans have $0 or low monthly plan premiums, and there's a cap on your out-of-pocket costs. To see if Humana plans are available in your area, simply call the number on your screen or visit our website. The Medicare annual enrollment period ends on December 7th, so call now. Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
These days, supporting the right causes matters more than ever. That's why I chose Patriot Mobile. They're not just a great mobile service provider, they're all about giving back. Every bill helps support causes we believe in: family, faith, and freedom. You get great nationwide coverage on all three main networks. Even better, you're doing it with an American company that stands up for us. It's time to make the switch, y'all. Let's support a wireless company that's got our back. Go to patriotmobile.com and make the switch today.
Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America. Most investors believe their IRA, 401k, and bank accounts are reliable and safe. But what if our economy becomes so dire that you're restricted from accessing your own money? The fact is that should your bank be in trouble for holding bad loans, the burden could fall on you to help bail them out. Even more concerning is that U.S. financial regulations allow banks to impose withdrawal limits on your hard-earned savings. But there's something you can do about it. Our team at Swiss America has a report called The Secret War on Cash. Learn how to protect yourself with assets that can remain outside the control of banks and other financial institutions. For over 40 years, Swiss America has been one of the most trusted metal firms in the country. So don't wait. Call or text the number on your screen today for financial peace of mind in these uncertain times.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Don Lemon canceled by the woke mob for comments about women, about Nikki Haley specifically, reminding us why he was fired by CNN. Take a listen.
Is Megyn Kelly chopped?
I don't know what that means.
Is she chopped?
I don't know what is chopped. I've heard it, but I don't know what that means. What does chopped mean?
Chopped means like not hot.
Yeah, she's chopped. I don't know, the whole MAGA look.
It's all the MAGA ladies. Kind of looks like a Barbie doll covered in like WD-40.
I think she looks trans.
Let's end on that note.
She looks, as they say, she looks clockable.
First off, let's see the ladies that those two goobers are dating before we start judging Megyn Kelly, who is actually very attractive. And also, let's just say, when he was employed by a woke company, Don Lemon relished in pushing for the cancellation of anybody that would say something offensive, far less offensive than what he just said right there. And then all of that ate him too. And now here he is out here just saying the most offensive things he can possibly say. Just a reminder of how fake people like Don Lemon really are. Think of how he would have treated that statement if he had been working at CNN, still making his $6 million a year. Next up, CNN's Abby Phillip with a little power trip this morning, flexing how much control she has over her CNN show.
It's my show. Mm-hmm. And I can draw the lines when I need to draw the lines. I want it to be not that common, because when I do, it's like when your mom, really tells you it's time to stop. Mm-hmm. Because I'm the host, I can draw those lines around the kind of conduct that I will accept at the table.
Yeah.
And I have control over who shows up and who doesn't.
The real story is she needs 5 co-hosts to carry that show for her. Next up, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, who spent years warning us about the world being in danger due to climate change, softening his tone dramatically, writing a lengthy post. Unfortunately, the doomsday outlook is causing much of the climate community to focus too much on near-term emission goals, and it's diverting resources from the most effective things we should be doing to improve life in a warming world. Although climate change will have serious consequences, particularly for the people in the poorest countries, it will not lead to humanity's demise. So, yeah, because they've turned this thing into a political weapon, and they've cranked it up as much as they can. Bill Gates trying to say, yeah, we need to tamper down a little bit. It's not that dramatic. Well, of course it's not. It's almost nothing at all. And finally, MSNBC's early morning host suddenly is an intrepid journalist when it comes to presidential health.
He didn't specify why the MRI was taken or which part of his body was scanned. Back in July, you'll remember the White House announced Trump was diagnosed with a common vein condition after he noticed swelling in his legs. The White House also attributed visible bruising on his hands to frequent handshaking, while Trump's doctor said it's a side effect of the aspirin he takes as part of a cardiovascular health regimen. Still, I think the White House press corps and I have some questions about that.
We have some questions about that. Where were all your questions when we had a corpse in the White House for 4 years, honey? I don't remember any questions at all. All right, a wild admission from Biden's former chief of staff next.
Closed captioning brought to you by Magna Life Relaxing Leg Cream PM for a good night's sleep.
The discomfort in your legs at night is real. Here's what real customers have to say about Magna Life Relaxing Leg Cream. It's a lifesaver if you have restless legs.
Available at your local retailer.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
Tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians, bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror, Hamas must go.
Ransomware scares me.
Cyberman to the rescue. PCmatic blocks the ransomware that hijacks your computer and your data, then demands a ransom.
Hackers are terrifying.
Hackers are always spying on your computer. PCmatic's VPN stops hacking.
My computer is slow.
PCmatic makes your computer faster. PCmatic is made in America and protects homes, businesses, and governments.
Thank you, Cyberman. Go to PCmatic.com.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Get 35% off your first preferred set by using discount code Newsmax.
We finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death.
We finally beat Medicare. That was the moment of collapse from that infamous debate, Biden and Trump. That's when it all fell apart. It was reported at the time that the chief of staff, Ron Klain, knew that the campaign was effed after that moment. He was asked about it in a recent interview. Take a look.
I believe so. I don't recall the specific expletive, but I certainly knew that we had a big political problem as a result of that answer.
Why did you think you had a political problem?
Because I thought the president's answer on that question had been halting. He had stopped in the middle and paused inexplicably, and then had delivered that sentence that made no sense.
And we finally beat Medicare. Infinity's next. We'll see you tomorrow night.